In the Atlantic's black fog, the SS Andrea Doria moves like a glowing ghost, elegant, unaware. The sea is silent, holding its breath, then a horn, a shadow, a shape drifting where no shape should be. One heartbeat later, steel meets steel, and night tears open. But what truly happened in that hidden darkness? This is the true story of SS Andrea Doria, and the night everything went wrong. The SS Andrea Doria was born from the quiet hope of a nation rebuilding itself after war. In the shipyards of Genoa, her steel rose against the Italian sky with the promise of a better future. Welders wiped sweat from their brows as her frame grew, elegant lines, polished brass, rich Italian woodwork. She was more than a liner. She was a floating symbol of pride, adorned with chandeliers that shimmered like the memory of old European glamour. Her maiden voyages carried laughter, polished shoes, perfume drifting through long hallways, and the certainty that she belonged to a safer, more optimistic age. Among her early passengers was a young woman named Lucia Romano, who believed that stepping aboard the Andrea Doria meant stepping toward a life beyond the shadow of post-war Europe. As the years passed, the ship became a legend, moving across the Atlantic with effortless grace, her sleek profile slicing through waves like a brushstroke against a blue canvas. But legends carry secrets, and the Andrea Doria had one written deep within her steel, a tendency to list. It was subtle, corrected by careful ballast, and whispered about only in crew corridors. Yet it lingered there, like a premonition, a quiet imbalance that one day would matter more than anyone ever imagined. Officers learned to compensate, guests never noticed, but the ocean remembers things that people forget. By July of 1956, the Andrea Doria prepared for another crossing, this time leaving Italy with her dining rooms full, her cabins neatly made, and her lifeboats polished in the summer sun. Lucia boarded again, this time with her young daughter Sophia, whose excitement could barely be contained. Nearby, an American businessman named John Teller wrote a letter to his wife, telling her he would be home by weekend. None of them could imagine how that week would end. The ship steamed westward in calm seas, her decks filled with strolling passengers, children racing between railings, and the faint echo of music drifting from the ballroom. But beyond the horizon, a different vessel was moving toward them. The Swedish liner Stockholm, smaller, sharper, and armed with an ice-breaking bow built for northern seas. On the night of July 25th, fog rolled across the Atlantic like a living curtain. Visibility shrank. Horns sounded at intervals. Radar screens glowed in dim bridge light. Officers on both ships leaned forward, squinting into a gray world that swallowed sound and shape. A mini-hook settles here. The ocean grows quiet when it prepares to change a story. The Andrea Doria held her course at a steady speed, her passengers finishing dinner, children falling asleep, lovers walking the promenade wrapped in soft lamplight. Lucia tucked Sophia into bed, promising they would see the Statue of Liberty at sunrise. But at 10:45 p.m., something appeared on the radar, an approaching vessel, its angle unclear in the thick fog. Officers attempted course corrections. Horns blared into nothingness. The Stockholm advanced through the mist with confident precision, her bow cutting a narrow tunnel in the night. Two worlds were moving toward one another, guided by instruments that interpreted fog differently. The sea held its breath. At 11:10 p.m., a faint glow emerged through the fog, a shape drifting where no shape should be. The Andrea Doria's bridge erupted in sudden voices. The Stockholm's bow rose like a shadowed blade. Time seemed to stretch, pulled thin by dread. A final horn shattered the silence, and then steel met steel. The collision hit with a force that echoed across the water. The Stockholm's reinforced bow tore a deep wound into the Andrea Doria's starboard side, ripping through cabins where families had already settled for the night. The ship lurched violently, plunging into an immediate list that tilted hallways, sent suitcases sliding, and turned floors into angled walls. Dishes crashed, lights flickered. The world tilted with a sickening inevitability. Lucia grabbed Sophia, stumbling toward the corridor as the angle grew sharper. Nearby, John Teller braced against a rail, his letter slipping from his fingers and drifting across the tilted deck. Crew members rushed through slanted hallways, shouting instructions, their voices echoing with urgency, but not panic. Lifeboats on the starboard side hung uselessly in the air, too high to launch. Only those on the port side dipped toward the water, and even those required precision. Fog clung to the ship in thick ropes, limiting visibility, muffling cries into soft, uncertain echoes. A mini-hook arrives here. The ocean listens, but it does not answer. Radio operators sent the stress signals into the dark. The Stockholm, despite the devastation to her bow, stayed afloat, deploying her own boats to help. Other vessels in the area altered course, rushing toward the disaster like guardian shadows emerging from the fog. One by one, they appeared. Nantucket Lightship, the Cape Ann, the Ile-de-France, whose elegant silhouette rose through the mist like a rescuer written into a tragedy. Lifeboats began to fill. Lucia clutched Sophia tightly as they were lowered into a boat lit only by lantern glow and the eerie light of a listing ship behind them. John Teller helped hoist a child into safety before stepping back aboard the sinking liner, determined to assist others. The Andrea Doria leaned farther, her beautiful decks now slanted ceilings, her chandeliers swinging like trembling stars. The sea surged softly around her as if preparing to claim what gravity could no longer hold. Hours passed. Hundreds were rescued through coordinated bravery, quick thinking, and the willingness of nearby ships to risk everything in the fog. But not all could be saved. When dawn finally broke, the Andrea Doria still clung to the surface, her wounded hull gleaming beneath the pale morning light. At 10:09 a.m., the ship that symbolized Italian pride rolled completely onto her side and slipped beneath the Atlantic. The sea closed over her without a sound. Aftermath swept across America like a cold wind. Questions rose: radar error, misjudged turn, fog deception. Investigators studied charts, testimonies, angle calculations, and mechanical logs. The story unfolded into a tapestry of miscommunication and misreading, two ships interpreting the same ocean differently. John Teller's letter was recovered days later, water-stained, but readable. Lucia and Sophia returned home with memories they would never shake. The Stockholm returned to service, carrying the mark of that night forever in her bow. In the quiet years that followed, divers descended into Atlantic darkness to explore the Andrea Doria's resting place. They found chandeliers half buried in silt, hallways filled with drifting sediment, and the bones of a once proud liner lying like a cathedral of steel. In the silence of those depths, the sea keeps what it remembers. The Andrea Doria story is not just a collision. It is a reminder of how quickly certainty can dissolve, how two paths can cross in a way no one expects. And in the fog of that night, beneath layers of steel and memory, lies a truth the ocean still refuses to whisper. If this tragedy still echoes in your thoughts, stay with us. The ocean holds many more stories, and some have waited a lifetime to be